Okay, hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking all about flight attendant training. So whether you have gotten your CJO, which congratulations, or you just want to know whatever you're getting yourself involved in, then go ahead and keep watching and let's just get started. Okay, so as many of you may know, I did used to work for a regional airline and now I work for a mainline carrier. But I am going to break the training process down for both. So I am going to kind of talk about the similarities and the differences that you might see with both types of training. So I guess to get started, let's go ahead and talk about how long is training. So training can last anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks depending on the carrier. Most regionals will lean more towards that 3.5 week period, where a lot of mainlines are around 6.5 with the occasional 8. Yeah. So now that you've heard that, I'm sure you're wondering, well, Kat, is training paid for? And the answer to that most of the time is no, training is not paid for. So I do highly recommend you save a lot of money because yes, a lot of stuff is provided in training, but if you have bills and rents and things like that or car payments or whatever, you're still going to need to cover those costs while you're at training. Now I do know that Delta is one of the few airlines that does pay for training, but that is also because their training is much longer than most airlines. They are 8 to 8.5 weeks for training. So they do pay you a small amount for their training, while other carriers might pay you like a little bit of a stipend, but nothing that you can really pay your bills on. So I do highly recommend that you start saving up money, especially once you know you're going to training. There will be quite a period of time usually before you actually go. So use that time to save as much money as you can because you'll probably need it. So even though a lot of trainings aren't paid for, most of the time lodging is provided. So you will be staying either at their training center or they'll put you into a hotel and shuttle you to wherever their training center might be. So find out where your airline that you're going to has their training center. They are going to pay to fly you out there for the whole period of time, and they will usually put you up in a hotel. So that is a nice comfort to your wallet. Okay, so once they fly you out to the training center, are you expected to stay there? Well, no, not quite. So they do highly recommend that you stay there. And whenever I was with my regional airline, I did stay there. I was out in Phoenix at the time, and I'm not from Phoenix, which I was actually based out in Phoenix after that because I loved it so much in training. But I did stay there. I did have a roommate. So you will most likely have a roommate in training. Some lucky few did not. But after training, when you're on your layovers, don't expect any more roommates. You will completely have a private room, which is fabulous. But in training, you'll most likely have a roommate, which is great because they can be your best friend, your study partner, or they could be your biggest stress, which doesn't always happen, but every now and again it does. It's just like life sometimes, okay? So you're gonna have to learn how to work with people and put those interview skills that you told them to the test. But when I was with my mainline, their training center was actually in my hometown, so I did not stay there. At this point I was married and I was like, why would I have a roommate when I can just stay at home with my husband? They did tell me they highly recommended I stay there for study purposes and to get well adjusted with people, which I completely understand why they recommended that to me. Did I take the recommendation? No. I did keep the room and keep a room key just in case for those very early classes, but I did not actually end up staying there. Now the pros and cons of that are pro, I got to stay with my husband and I didn't have all the craziness and some of the drama that does go on in the training, which unfortunately, sometimes there is drama that goes on in the training. But the con to this is I do feel like I met so many more people and got such a closer bond to those when I was in training with regional than I did with my mainline. With my mainline, actually, I've met more people being on the line that was actually in my training class than I did in training. So it's completely up to you if you do live where their training center is, but I do recommend if you're trying to make friends and trying to really get into it, then you should probably stay there, but it's not necessary. You can stay at home if you live close by. With that being said, you need to be on time for class. If you are not on time for class, goodbye. So if you cannot be on time, if you have traffic and you cannot account for traffic or anything like that, you need to be at the training center because as soon as you're late, there went your opportunity, okay? So really be on time, really be focused, but do whatever works best for you. And the next thing is food provided for. So when I was with regional, they did provide some meals, but not all. They provided about 2. One was breakfast through the hotel. Well, and the second meal was from a food truck, which was actually pretty good the first week. And when I went to training with my mainline, food was provided in their cafeteria and they did switch out the meals quite a bit. They had like a hot lunch bar, a salad, potato, a hot sandwich, all kinds of stuff, vegetarian, whatever. And they did have tons of snack trays out in the hallways pretty much at all times of day with sodas and whatever. So first off, I recommend you watch what you're eating in training, because it is so easy with all the treats and snacks and goodies and everything around you to gain some weight. So when you do your uniform fitting at the beginning, whenever it's time to actually go fly, you do want that uniform to still fit. So yes, the treats are amazing, but do try and watch a little bit of what you're eating and make sure that you don't put on a little bit too much weight, because you also blow in the air, which is fabulous. But anyways, that food was also good for a few weeks, but when you're at training for a month and a half or to 2 months, you're gonna get sick of that as well. So I also recommend that in that savings budget that you're doing, you put some money in there for food. Okay, so what to pack? They do usually provide you like a list in your pre-training packet, kind of going over some of the guidelines of what you should pack, because they do usually require that when you're in their training center, you are in business casual. When I was with my regional, they did require jeans and black tops and tennis shoes, because when you are doing these evacuations and drills and stuff, you can't be in open-toed shoes. It's a safety hazard. So you do need closed-toed shoes. But when I was with my mainline, you were not allowed in the training center without being completely business casual. So a lot of slacks, a lot of pencil skirts, a lot of pantyhose, and a lot of really nice blouses. So unless you had some really corporate job, expect to kind of spend a little bit of money on that as well. I know with my mainline, they also had a jeans day, so you can bring a little bit of casual stuff. Plus, you're not going to just be in the training center. So when you go out with friends or do something fun, you are going to want some comfortable clothes, but they will provide you a complete list of stuff that you should expect to bring. But you will be expected to also bring all of your required items, which they vary from airline to airline, so that kind of depends. But you will be having checks on that, as well as image checks. When I was with regional, we did image checks quite a bit to make sure your shirt was tucked in, your nails were done and well groomed, no chips, no nothing, your hair was completely tied back, or if it was of shoulder length, it could be down really nicely styled, your makeup was well polished, and that your tattoos were completely covered. So when I was with my mainline, we did 2 main image checks. They had this whole vanity style with the image team there, and you sat in their booth and they talked to you about your skincare routine, they talked to you about your makeup, your nails, and everything like that. And if your hair wasn't properly done, they gave you tips on how to polish your hair back. They also went over all of your grooming and all of that kind of stuff, which is very, very helpful. Completely nerve-wracking, but very, very helpful. I do remember that one of those first image checks was on your first day. Just with everything else going on, it was just one more thing on there. But as long as you are dressed to a T, you have nothing to worry about. So I did mention the pre-training pack that you will receive, and I did get one with my regional as well as with my mainline. And in this training packet, it'll kind of go over what to expect, what to bring, things like that, but it also has study materials in there. So I do highly, highly recommend you study that materials, because most of the time you're tested on it within the first couple of days. So study all that stuff. It's going to be stuff like types of aircrafts that you're planning on flying with our company. It could be airport codes, it could be terminology. You could see just a little bit of everything, but whatever is in that packet, you do need to study it. And I know with my mainline, we also had online assignments that we were supposed to be doing. So any assignments or stuff that you are expected to know, they will tell you in that packet. So go over that and make sure that you do know it. That way when you go in there on your first test, you're gonna feel very confident. Okay, so with my regional, on the first day that we arrived at the airport and then got to the hotel, it was really just like a kind of a day to like relax and kick back and de-stress and unpack and everything like that. They did like a little pizza party get together downstairs. So you got to mingle and meet people, which was a lot of fun. And then after that, you were on your own. So it was a great way to kind of meet your roommate, meet other people, get excited, and completely wind down. Now, with my mainline on that first day, when you first showed up, the first things you were doing were uniform fittings, you were ordering luggage, you were doing image checks. There was a lot going on that first day. And then after that, of course, you got to kind of de-stress. So the first day is super, super exciting. You're gonna meet a lot of new faces. You're gonna be smiling. You're gonna be nervous. It's great. But also after that, you get a little bit of time kind of yourself to like really think about what's all going on and everything like that. So it is going to be a big day for you, an exciting day, but also a day where you can kind of sit back and just be like, we're here. Okay, so after the first day, training pretty much begins. You're gonna expect to be in class about 6 days a week with 1 day off, and that was the same for my regional and my mainline. Now, with my regional, we were a little bit of a larger group and they broke us down into 2. One had the morning classes, one had the evening classes, and then every week we did switch. Now, they kind of do this not just to make it easier for the training process, but also because as a flight attendant, your schedule is erratic. Your sleep schedule is crazy, your work schedule is crazy, and this is kind of just getting you adjusted to what a normal day in the life of a flight attendant is like. Now with my mainline, we were a class of 150 because they were doing a big hire, and they split us up into groups of 50. So while training was going on, we were all three split up into different rooms and everything like that, which also did make the process a little bit easier. We were split into 3 different time slots, the morning, the afternoon, and the evening, and pretty much every week we were all switching around. So you can definitely expect that for regional and mainline. Okay, now being completely honest, if you ask me if training was hard, I'm going to tell you no. And that's just because schooling comes very, very easy to me. And it's not to say like, oh, schooling comes so easy to me, but that's just it, is I'm very, very, very good at memorization. So it was kind of one of those things I can brush off. But I am the exception and not the rule. Most people get very stressed out on training. It is a lot of information you're learning in a very, very short time. So please understand what your study habits are, how you study best, and do it and stick with it, because you are going to be tested pretty much every couple of days. And you do need to score a 90% or higher. With my regional, you were only allowed to fail 1 test. With my mainline, you were allowed to fail either 2 or 3, which obviously you had much more tests in mainline, and that's why there's a little bit more room for error. But it is not easy for everybody. Most people find it extremely hard. And yes, it's a lot of information very quickly, so you need to know how you study best. For me, I read something once and that's pretty much it. So for me, I'm an audio learner. I listen a lot in lectures and class. Sometimes I'll write stuff down, sometimes I don't. I look over it once and I'm done. And again, that's why I'm the exception and not the rule. If you study best in groups, there's going to be lots of study groups. If you study best on your own, there's lots of places you can find to study a little bit on your own. Or if you're kind of like me and you don't study at all, then great, don't study much at all. But don't think you're one of those people who don't need to study at all and then you fail, because really this training is tight, and after you fail a test, you're going to be stressed for the rest of training. So really study, really be on top of your game and know what works for you, and don't let anybody tell you different on what does or does not work for you. Okay, so some of the stuff that you're going to learn in training is kind of what a day in a life is like, how to bid, how the payroll is gonna work, kind of about healthcare stuff. You're gonna learn about safety equipment, safety procedures, types of emergencies, what to do in emergencies, ditching, which is your water training, and a lot more stuff, and especially some stuff that I actually can't tell you about. So training is a lot of material in a very short amount of time, like I said. So do expect to be condensing a lot of information, a lot of airplanes, a lot of good stuff, a lot of exciting stuff. You're gonna be learning stuff about service in your first class versus service in your main cabin. And if you're with the mainline, you're gonna be learning service when you go overseas, like Australia or Japan, and all the interesting stuff that we do for specific locations like Hawaii. So all of that stuff is super, super exciting, but it is hard and it is tough for a lot of people. So really be on top of your game. You're gonna learn a lot of good stuff and a lot of stuff that I'm just not going to be able to tell you. So just get ready, get excited, and yes, it is tough, but you're gonna do great, okay? And tell yourself, don't, as soon as you say like, oh my God, this is so hard, and you start stressing out, from then on out, training's gonna be so hard and you're gonna be so stressed. So just tell yourself, remind yourself, you're capable of anything. You've gotten this far and you're gonna keep going. So everybody is going to be there to support you. There's not going to be a lot of surprises on your test. It's going to be information they're going to give you. So you're not gonna feel like, oh, I never heard this before. That doesn't really happen. You're gonna have heard everything. You're gonna know everything and you're going to do great. There's a lot going on. So you can't expect to be doing a lot of studying and a lot of that kind of stuff that's school related, but you're also gonna have tons of fun and you're gonna have tons of time for your personal stuff and to talk with your family and your friends from back home or doing whatever you wanna do. Me personally, I'm quite a gym rat. I did manage to go to the gym pretty much every day that I was at my regional and my mainline. So you're gonna have lots of time for yourself, lots of time with friends. Just don't get distracted by all of that. Make sure you're still on top of your game, but also don't think this is gonna be your only chance and everything's gonna be about studying. Because if that's what you're gonna make it, you're gonna be so stressed and miserable. So have fun, but have some balance with your studies and understand how much you need to be studying versus how much you can relax. Now we did go over base preferences in training, whether that's usually, I would say in the middle. Both the times for me, it was about in the middle of that. They went over and let us list our base preferences from highest to lowest. They did kind of let us know what bases we can expect, but there was also a lot of secrecy with bases. So it does go seniority based for bases most of the time. So who's ever the oldest in your class is most likely to get their base preference. But again, that all depends on where they have availability. You signed up for this, you signed up to be flexible. So yes, you might not get your first choice, but they can always do transfers and stuff. But bases are exciting no matter where you go. And a lot of people don't get their first choice and end up loving it, okay? So keep a very, very open mind, because that's just a precedent for how the rest of this is gonna be. You need an open mind and a very flexible schedule, okay? Now for my regional, we did have what was called an IOE, which is basically your in-flight experience. So after training, we did go on IOE trips. You need a certain number of hours in the air, and they are basically helping you fly and teaching you kind of what you're gonna be doing, and then grading you. So you're gonna be learning alongside them as they're helping you out on those first few flights, and then by the end of it, you're completely on your own, which yes, it is very nerve-wracking. Yes, it's exciting and everything like that, but they know that. They work with students all the time for regional. They are IOE instructors specifically for this. So they're not out there just to fail you. A lot of times they're supposed to be encouraging you and helping you, because they are going to be your grader, but your best friend when you're on that plane. Now with mainline, instead of having an IOE, we did have work trips. So we actually did our in-flight experience while we were still in training. We had set days that we had to fly any kind of routes. They kind of picked them for us, and then you got to unveil wherever you were going, which was very, very exciting. And you do need to do a certain number of hours in the plane as well to make sure that you are qualified and you are good to fly as soon as training is over. Again, they're going to be your best friend. They're going to be there to help you. They're going to be excited that you're there because it's more hands and more help for them. So don't be super nervous about your IOEs. So just have a good sense of humor, have a good mentality, an open mind and everything, and you're going to have a blast, okay? It's your first glimpse into what this lifestyle is really going to be like, and so exciting. So after training is over, sometimes they will give you move dates. I know my regional, we had 5 days to pretty much move to wherever base was out after training. So you don't have a lot of time to get ready and prepared, to be quite honest. So if you're gonna crash pad, if you're gonna get an apartment, if you're going back to home, whatever it is, you have to figure it out very fast, okay? And they do understand it is a very stressful time for you, but there's only so much they can do. So get ready to be planning while you're in training, whatever it is you're going to be doing. Now with my mainline, they actually needed us pretty much right out of training. So on my graduation, within an hour after that, I had to be rushed off to the airport, say goodbye to my family, and pretty much start flying. So sometimes based on operational need, you don't get move dates pretty much, at least not at the beginning. You're gonna basically be going flying, and then after that, they will come back and give you move dates. Now if that does happen, a lot of times they do put you up into the hotel, and they did give us per diem until basically we had our move dates. So there was about 14 days where we were getting per diem up in a very, very nice hotel and flying around pretty much until we actually had some time where we could do our move dates. Now this was because a holiday was going on, and so I will say this is the exception and not the rule. Most of the time you do get a couple move dates right off the bat, but pretty much right after that you're going to be flying, which is so much going on, and they know it's so much going on, but you're gonna be so excited and whatever, so you're not even going to care. I promise you, you're gonna be like, just let me fly, let me get the best layovers, let me do whatever. So you're gonna be excited. It's fine, brush it off, but you will be flying. So really on your IOEs and your work trips, take note of what you're doing, because after that, you're on your own. Now I will say, last but not least, training is long. I mean, it's 3 to 8 weeks. So most of you will be away from your families and friends, and it is sad, it is hard. Some people do break down, but guess what? A lot of times in this lifestyle, you are away from your family and friends, and maybe not for such a long period of time, but this kind of just gets you ready and gets your wings. It gets you your wings to independence. So as stressful, as hard, as many times as you might want to break down or you're upset or whatever, you're gonna have a family behind you at training that's ready and has your back. Everybody's going through the same thing, so you're gonna have a family, and yes, you're going to miss yours. FaceTime is probably gonna be your best friend, but it is such an exciting time in your life, and you're going to remember these people and this experience for the rest of your life. They're gonna be probably some of your bridesmaids, some of your groomsmen, whatever it is. So training is super exciting. So So I hope this was a ton of information for all of you. I hope this was enough information for all of you. If I did miss anything, please go ahead and comment down below or tell me your favorite part in training if you've already been. So I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you like this and subscribe to my channel and turn the bell on. I do a ton of travel videos, especially flight attendant videos. So if you are looking for more content like this, be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys, and have a great day, y'all. Bye.